Video game development is a long and often arduous process filled with perils of different kinds. The best laid plans can sometimes never come to fruition, and it's often the case that a studio's original vision will change over time, either because something doesn't work in practice or because they've been given a strict deadline to meet. Whereas in the past it would take developers going public for players to discover such cut content, data miners now regularly uncover all sorts of juicy little secrets while going through a game's files, and discoveries are frequent. Sometimes they'll actually be able to access and play the cut content in question, although with it being cut, it's never going to match up to the finished product, at least quality-wise. All the same, it's fascinating to look at some of the cut content that never made it to release. It shines a light on the development process and may provide hints of what a studio could look to include in a future project. So, let's take a look and mourn the content together, shall we? I'm Ewan, this is What Culture Gaming, and here are 8 video games with cut content that would have been awesome. Number 8. Prometheus and Black Mask, Batman Arkham Knight. If there's one thing Batman Arkham Knight was lacking, it wasn't content. The game was filled to the brim with all sorts of side missions, Easter eggs, and gameplay features, which was further expanded upon in a well-stocked, albeit controversial season pass that released a few months later. While the Matter of Family add-on definitely took the cake for the best of Knight's post-release content, its Season of Infamy that followed was a close second. The game's final add-on bolstered its roster of villains with Killer Croc, Mad Hatter, Ra's al Ghul, and Mr. Freeze all joining, but according to in-game files, there were 2 other villains who originally meant to join them. Prometheus and Black Mask were both apparently meant to be included in the Season of Infamy, but were cut during development on the project. That's a massive shame, given Prometheus himself was a long-requested character for the series after nabbing an Easter egg all the way back in Arkham Asylum, and also after Black Mask only got a minor role in Arkham Origins. It is possible, however, that Black Mask's appearance was retooled into the Red Hood story pack, which ends with his death at the hands of the eponymous vigilante. Number 7. Vehicle gameplay, Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy. The Jedi Knight series is arguably the best Star Wars video game series ever, and while most point towards Jedi Outcast as being its strongest offering, an argument could also be made for its sequel, Jedi Academy, being just as good. Academy introduced a couple of new features to the series, giving players access to 2 lightsabers, or even the double-bladed lightsaber if they so desired. One thing that fans may not know, however, is that Jedi Academy also features some hidden vehicle gameplay that can be accessed by inputting console commands. Once the commands have been punched in, you can take control of an X-Wing, different kinds of TIE fighters, and also an Imperial shuttle. They're all very buggy, but the fact they're even playable at all hints that Raven Software were at one time considering more than just speeder bikes as playable vehicles. Number 6. New biomes and enemies, Minecraft. Mojang's Minecraft is one of the most complete gaming experiences you could ever hope to find, but, as always, things were cut during the game's development. In the original Java edition, players can uncover 2 different biomes that have since been phased out of the game with updates, those being the Mountain Edge and the Deep Warm Ocean biomes. The former acts as a sort of transition point between the regular mountain biome and other biomes, while the latter was much deeper than the other ocean types in the game. Both can still be accessed with Buffet, but neither generate naturally and require direct intervention from the player in order for them to appear. Number 5. Mystery Levels, The Simpsons Hit and Run. A classic case of a game that could have been even better if the studio had been given more time, The Simpsons Hit and Run includes all sorts of cut content that never made it to the final release. Granted, the game is still amazing as is, and can be even better if you have access to the Donut Team mods on PC, but further additions would have gone a long way. This is why the cut content of Hit and Run is doubly frustrating. Among the litany of cut features include a garage full of lost cars, unused models, and even entire levels. The game shipped with a total of 7 levels, but if its files are anything to go by, it was meant to have 9. One can only speculate on what the 8th and 9th levels may have included, but there are all sorts of locations in Springfield the game could have featured. Sure, the full release is still fairly comprehensive, but players would never say no to more content, and especially to more Hit and Run. Elsewhere in Hit and Run's graveyard of cut content, players can access a bonus racetrack modeled on an episode from the show's 11th season, various assorted gags, and unused interiors on certain levels. Number 4. Burglary and Bunko Desks, LA Noire. LA Noire may be a proper classic of the last generation of consoles, but it had a fairly notorious development cycle. Crunch culture was endemic at Sydney-based Team Bondi, and there was further fallout when it emerged numerous developers who worked on the game weren't listed in the credits. The surrounding controversies effectively destroyed the studio's working relationship with Rockstar, which was already in a rocky place after multiple clashes between the two companies during LA Noire's rocky development. Even so, the game was a major success, scoring praise from outlets and selling millions of copies in the process. The finished product, not without its flaws, boasts a well-crafted story and a decent enough running time, clocking in around the 20-hour mark. One thing players may not realize, though, is that the game was actually meant to be longer too, with Bondi co-founder and LA Noire director Brendan McNamara having revealed that burglary and bunco desks were also meant to be included. Bunco means fraud, apparently, the more you know. Bunco and burglary are both mentioned in-game, and would have supposedly brought an additional 11 investigations to the title. The reason why they weren't included? Well, according to McNamara, it was because they wouldn't have all fitted onto one Blu-ray disc. Speaking in an interview, McNamara said the following: "We had a bunco and burglary desk. Bunco is fraud, and burglary is just people robbing houses and stuff. We had 11 full cases for that, which we wrote and did the design for to a certain extent. We even did the art for them too, but it just got to a point where we were never going to fit it on one Blu-ray. It's a shame they never made it for the final cut, but given LA Noire originally shipped with 3 discs anyway, it's understandable they were reluctant to add another." Number 3. The Cobra Pilot and Other Missions. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare's story mode was, like other Call of Duty campaigns, short but sweet. You can guarantee that all COD campaigns will clock in somewhere between the 4 to 6 hour mark, with the main focus on development having been on multiplayer pretty much since the release of the first Modern Warfare in 2007. Still, that doesn't mean that Infinity Ward, Treyarch, or whoever else is developing the next COD going with a fixed set of missions that absolutely must be included. Cut content is actually really frequent, and nowhere is this better illustrated than in Call of Duty 4. Infinity Ward's revolutionary FPS featured a campaign unlike any we'd ever seen before, leaving World War II behind and instead whisking players away to the murky and frighteningly advanced combat scenarios of the modern day. Players will recall one of the standout missions involving an AC-130 gunship, but that wasn't originally going to be the only vehicle you'd get to control. In actual fact, one of these several cut missions from the game involved you piloting a Cobra attack helicopter, and would have assumedly tied into the sequence where Sergeant Paul Jackson rescues the downed pilot shortly before the nuclear detonation. Number 2. Ahsoka and Padme, Star Wars Battlefront 2 2017. Star Wars Battlefront 2 may have managed to turn its rocky launch around with a selection of great updates, but it still shows the scars of its early release. The controversy surrounding the game's loot box-based progression system forced DICE to delay plans for post-launch content, and instead spend their time rebuilding a new progression system from the ground up. They were successful, but with EA having now pulled the plug on Battlefront 2, claiming that DICE had quote-unquote completed their vision, yeah right, there's an overriding sense from fans, and even potentially DICE's developers too, that it's still unfinished. A while ago, data miners were able to uncover voice lines from General Grievous that explicitly referenced 2 long-requested heroes for Battlefront 2, Ahsoka Tano and Padme Amidala. The 2 characters plus Asajj Ventress were all heavily rumoured to be the next heroes to come to Battlefront following the arrivals of BB-8 and BB-9E, with many expecting DICE to return to the Clone Wars after wrapping up the Age of Rebellion, but that obviously never came to pass, and oh god, it's so sad. So it might be ever so slightly disingenuous to claim that Ahsoka and Padme were cut from Battlefront, but given DICE had these lines in-game, it at least confirms they were being considered at one point in time. And number 1, the Shah Muta Job, GTA 5. Perhaps GTA 5's standout feature was heists. Both in single player and, rather belatedly, in multiplayer, these well-crafted missions gave players the opportunity to plan, execute, and pull off a satisfying caper with an array of different themes, including an Italian Job-esque getaway substituting minis for muscle cars in the finale. However, not every heist that was planned eventually made it into the final product. One such heist that we know definitely existed was the Sharmuta job, a heist that would have involved Michael, Franklin, and Trevor raiding Martin Madrazo's house, with the end goal being to steal his safe, his prized horse, and then also kidnap his wife, Patricia. The Sharmuta job, like all other heists, would have given players a couple of options on how it could be executed. The prep phase stays the same, with Michael and Trevor gaining access to the house under the guise of a sales viewing, but the execution phase really gave players some very routes to take. Go stealthy and by night, and Michael and Trevor would simply break into the house and stealthily carry out their objectives, so nothing too elaborate. However, the daytime options were much better, and involved some variation of the leads gate-crashing Madrazo's party. The loud day option sees Michael and Trevor dress up as mimes and getting involved in a shootout with Madrazo's forces, while the quiet option would have also added Franklin to the mix, and would have seen the trio dressing up as clowns. Players would have to perform tricks to keep partygoers occupied while a third member made off with the safe, Patricia, and the horse, so a fairly elaborate scheme all in all. And yeah, that was our list. Do you know of any other video games that had cut content? Let us know in the comments below, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. After that, remember you can find more news, lists, and articles like this at whatculture.com/gaming, and more of me on Twitter at HumeRuinsThings if you fancy ruining your social media feed. That's all for now though, I hope you're all doing okay, and I'll see you next time.